This week is known as Holy Week, and if you've ever wondered whether Holy Week is really all that important, consider this. In the Bible, there are 4 books that tell the story of Jesus' life. There's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We call those the 4 Gospels. And in those 4 Gospels, almost a third, 33% of what we know about Jesus' life comes from this one week. It's amazing when you think about it. There's even one Gospel that doesn't say anything about Jesus' birth, but all 4 of them say a whole lot about Holy Week. So as we talk through some of the events of Holy Week, I want you to keep 2 things in mind the entire time. First of all, everything that Jesus went through, he went through willingly. It's going to seem as though a lot of things are happening to Jesus, as if those things are being done to Jesus by people who have a whole lot more power than him. But the reality is that Jesus knew all of this was going to happen. He allowed all of it to happen. He even dictated how a lot of it was going to happen. Everything that Jesus went through, he went through willingly. Why? Well, because of the second thing that I want you to remember. Everything that Jesus went through, he went through for you. There are plenty of other events in the life of Jesus that we might look at and take away some sort of lesson like, oh, there's something I need to change, something I need to do differently in my life. But when it comes to Holy Week, there's really just one point to it all. Jesus did this for you. He did it to save you from sin. He did it to rescue you from death. He did it to set you free from the devil. Everything that Jesus went through, he went through willingly, and he went through for you. Okay, so are you ready? It all started yesterday, the day that we know as Palm Sunday. Everyone was heading to Jerusalem for probably the most important Jewish festival of the year, the festival known as Passover. And this was going to be the big showdown between Jesus and his enemies. Jesus' enemies were waiting to kill him. Jesus knew it. If you've ever seen a movie where it all comes down to one final battle scene at the end, right before that battle scene, all the armies kind of gather up and line up, ready for that final showdown, that's Palm Sunday. And since that's the case, it makes what we read about Palm Sunday rather surprising. You read the accounts of Palm Sunday, and it almost seems as though the main character in the story isn't even Jesus. It sort of seems like the main character is this donkey. In some of the accounts, more than half of the space is all revolving around this donkey. Jesus tells 2 of his disciples to go up to the village ahead of them. He tells them they'll find a donkey there. He tells them to bring it back. He tells them that when they start to do this, the owners are going to stop them and ask them what they're doing. He tells them exactly what they're supposed to say. And then it happens. They go to the village ahead of them. They start to untie this donkey. The owners ask them what they're doing. They say exactly what Jesus tells them to say, and it works. They bring the donkey back. All of this space, all of this attention given to this animal. What in the world? Well, in Jesus' day, a donkey was a symbol of royalty. A donkey was an animal that a king would ride, but a king would ride a donkey only after he had secured peace. Only after every threat to his power had been put down and every enemy had been defeated. Obviously, a king would ride a donkey only after he had secured peace, because if there were still enemies, if there were still battles that needed to be fought, then obviously a donkey would not be his animal of choice. So Jesus rides into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday on a donkey, a symbol of royalty, a symbol of peace. But of course, there was no peace. As I mentioned, the battle hadn't even happened yet. Jesus' enemies were sitting there waiting for him, waiting to put him to death. And so Jesus rides into this battle with the absolute worst choice of animal possible. It's like he rides into Jerusalem with both of his hands tied behind his back. His enemies are waiting there to kill him, and Jesus simply places himself at their mercy. Remember what I said? Everything that Jesus went through, he went through willingly. Jesus is the one calling the shots. Jesus is the one pulling the strings. He's orchestrating the events exactly how he wants them, right down to the animal that he rode. And why? Because everything that Jesus went through, he went through for you. The other big part of the Palm Sunday story is the reception that Jesus got when he rode into Jerusalem. As he rode along that path, there were people on both sides of the path waving palm branches as he went. In fact, that's why we call it Palm Sunday, of course. And as Jesus entered Jerusalem, they all shouted, Hosanna. Hosanna is a Hebrew word that means God save us. God save us from our sin. God rescue us from death. God set us free from the control and the power of the devil. Hosanna is the Palm Sunday prayer of the people of God. And because Jesus rode into Jerusalem on that donkey, that prayer has been fully answered.